I want to talk to you today about something that most people have completely misunderstood about happiness. They think it's something that happens to them by accident, like winning the lottery or stumbling upon the perfect set of circumstances. They're waiting for that promotion, that relationship, that moment when everything finally falls into place. But here's what I've learned through decades of studying the brain and working with thousands of people: happiness isn't something you find out there in the world. It's something you create from within, right now, in this very moment. And I know that might sound like just another motivational phrase you've heard before, but stick with me because the science behind this is absolutely fascinating and it has the power to completely transform your life. Your body, your mind, your emotions, they're all listening to the story you tell yourself every single day. They're responding to your thoughts, adapting to your mental patterns, and literally rewiring themselves based on what you focus on. When you make the decision, and I mean truly decide from the depths of your being, to push yourself to rise above the stress, the doubt, the pain, something remarkable happens. You begin to rewire your brain, shift your energy, and open the door to joy regardless of what's happening around you. And I want to show you today that happiness is not only possible during hard times, it's actually in those moments that it becomes the most powerful force in your life. Let me explain what I mean by this. Most people are living as complete victims of their circumstances. They've handed over the remote control of their emotional life to everything and everyone around them. They say things like, "When I get that job, then I'll be happy. When I find the right person, then I'll feel fulfilled. When I make more money, when people treat me better, when my kids finally listen to me, when the weather is perfect, when I lose those extra pounds, then, and only then, will I allow myself to experience joy." Do you see what's happening here? They're giving away all their power. They're chaining their happiness to events that are completely outside their control. And here's the brutal truth that nobody wants to hear: life is never going to line up perfectly. There will always be challenges, disappointments, unexpected obstacles. If you're living by reacting to circumstances, your emotions are going to swing back and forth forever, rising and falling with the tides of fortune like a boat without an anchor. One day you're up because something good happened, the next day you're down because something went wrong. You're on this emotional roller coaster that never stops. But when you truly decide that happiness is something you choose from within, everything changes. You stop being a reactor and you become a creator. Think about this for a moment. Imagine waking up in the morning and before you check your phone, before you let the outside world come rushing in with all its demands and drama, you pause. You take a breath. And you ask yourself, how do I want to feel today? What kind of energy do I want to bring into this day? In that single moment, you reclaim authorship over your state of being. You take back the power that you've been giving away for years, maybe even decades. Your brain and your body, they don't need external permission slips to experience happiness. They respond to your intention. The chemistry of joy, peace, and fulfillment can be generated internally simply by choosing to think the thoughts and feel the emotions that match the future you want to live in, not the circumstances you may be stuck in right now. Now, I want to be really clear about something because people often misunderstand this point. This isn't about ignoring reality or pretending problems don't exist. I'm not asking you to put on rose-colored glasses and skip through life pretending everything is wonderful when it's not. That's not what this is about at all. It's about understanding that your inner state does not have to be dictated by external conditions. Let me give you an example. Two people can go through the exact same challenge. Let's say they both lose their job on the same day at the same company. One person collapses into despair, spiraling into depression, feeling like their life is over, that they're a failure, that nothing will ever work out for them. The other person, facing the identical situation, rises into determination and hope. They see it as an opportunity, a chance to reinvent themselves, to find something better, to grow. What's the difference? It's not the event itself. The event was exactly the same for both people. The difference is the decision about how to interpret and respond to it. One person chose to see catastrophe, the other chose to see possibility. And that choice, that single decision about meaning, created two completely different emotional realities from one external circumstance. When you make the decision to live from happiness, when you really commit to it, you begin to take your power back from circumstances and hand it over to your own consciousness. And this is where the science gets really exciting. The field of neuroplasticity tells us that our brains are constantly wiring and rewiring themselves based on the thoughts we repeatedly think. Every thought you have creates a neural pathway, and when you think that thought over and over again, that pathway gets stronger, more defined, more automatic. It's like walking through a forest. The first time you walk a new path, you have to push through bushes and undergrowth, but if you walk that same path every day, eventually it becomes a clear trail that's easy to follow. Your thoughts work the same way. If you constantly react to life by waiting for something outside of you to make you happy, you're reinforcing a neural pattern of dependency and helplessness. You're strengthening the pathway that says, I have no control, I'm at the mercy of what happens to me, I can only be happy when conditions are right. But when you choose happiness regardless of the external situation, you begin to create new neural pathways that signal safety, creativity, and resilience. You're building a new trail in your brain, one that says, I have the power to choose my emotional state, I am not a victim, I am a creator. And over time, your default setting becomes more positive because you've trained your mind and body to expect joy rather than wait passively for it. Consider how often we've been conditioned to be reactors. A compliment makes us smile, but a criticism crushes us. A good day at work fills us with hope, but a single setback leaves us completely drained. We've been programmed from childhood to believe that emotions are merely responses to what happens, like reflexes we can't control. Someone hits your knee with that little hammer and your leg kicks, that's a reflex. And we've been taught to think of emotions the same way, as if they're automatic responses we have no say in. But this belief is disempowering and, frankly, it's incomplete. In truth, emotions are choices, subtle moment-by-moment decisions we make about how to process what we experience. Now, they don't always feel like choices because we've been making the same choices for so long that they become automatic. But they are choices nonetheless. When you shift into the mindset of creator rather than reactor, you begin to understand that no one else holds the keys to your emotional state. You hold them. You always did. They were in your pocket the whole time, you just forgot they were there because you've been so busy looking outside yourself for someone else to unlock the door to your happiness. Choosing happiness daily is like exercising a muscle. At first, it feels unfamiliar and even difficult because the brain is wired to pay more attention to negative experiences. It's part of our survival instinct, right? Our ancestors who were constantly vigilant for danger, who remembered every threat and every predator, they were the ones who survived to pass on their genes. So we've inherited this brain that's like Velcro for negative experiences and Teflon for positive ones. The negative stuff sticks, the positive stuff slides right off. And over time, your default setting becomes more positive because you've trained your mind and body to expect joy rather than wait passively for it. Consider how often we've been conditioned to be reactors. A compliment makes us smile, but a criticism crushes us. A good day at work fills us with hope, but a single setback leaves us completely drained. We've been programmed from childhood to believe that emotions are merely responses to what happens, like reflexes we can't control. Someone hits your knee with that little hammer and your leg kicks, that's a reflex. And we've been taught to think of emotions the same way, as if they're automatic responses we have no say in. But this belief is disempowering and, frankly, it's incomplete. In truth, emotions are choices, subtle moment-by-moment decisions we make about how to process what we experience. Now, they don't always feel like choices because we've been making the same choices for so long that they become automatic. But they are choices nonetheless. When you shift into the mindset of creator rather than reactor, you begin to understand that no one else holds the keys to your emotional state. You hold them. You always did. They were in your pocket the whole time, you just forgot they were there because you've been so busy looking outside yourself for someone else to unlock the door to your happiness. Choosing happiness daily is like exercising a muscle. At first, it feels unfamiliar and even difficult because the brain is wired to pay more attention to negative experiences. It's part of our survival instinct, right? Our ancestors who were constantly vigilant for danger, who remembered every threat and every predator, they were the ones who survived to pass on their genes. So we've inherited this brain that's like Velcro for negative experiences and Teflon for positive ones. The negative stuff sticks, the positive stuff slides right off. But with practice, just like lifting weights builds physical strength, returning again and again to the decision to be happy strengthens the mental pathways that make joy your new normal. Instead of waiting for reasons to be happy, you start generating them. Instead of relying on outside validation, you draw from an internal reservoir of peace and gratitude. And this is why the simple act of choosing happiness even when life feels hard is absolutely revolutionary. It rewrites the script that's been running in your subconscious mind. It sends a powerful message: I am not a victim of what is happening, I am the author of my inner world. From this vantage point, challenges don't disappear, they're still there, but they lose their power to control you. The storm can rage outside, but you choose whether to let it invade the sanctuary of your mind. Every time you wake up and consciously decide to feel grateful, to focus on what's working rather than what's broken, to carry an inner smile regardless of circumstances, you are demonstrating to yourself that happiness is a decision you are entitled to make. And the more consistently you make it, the more natural it becomes, until one day you realize that happiness isn't something you're trying to achieve anymore, it's simply who you are. And now let's talk about something that most people completely miss, and it's this: your thoughts create your emotional state every single day. Most people believe that their emotions come directly from the circumstances they're facing, as if they're passive recipients of whatever life delivers. Something happens, and boom, they feel a certain way. It's automatic, right? But in truth, it is not the external event that creates how you feel. It's the meaning you give to that event through your thoughts. And from that significance comes the emotional response. What this means is that your emotional life is not simply a byproduct of what happens to you. It's sculpted by the quality and direction of your thinking. Let me give you a concrete example. If you wake up and the first thought that enters your mind is, "This day is going to be stressful, I have so much to do, I'm already behind, everything's going to go wrong," that thought triggers a cascade of feelings. Tension builds in your body, there's a sense of heaviness in your chest, maybe even a feeling of dread in your stomach. And here's what's happening at a biological level: the brain begins to release chemicals that match the thought. Cortisol starts flooding your system, adrenaline spikes, your heart rate increases, your muscles tighten, and your body prepares itself to live out that emotional state. You've essentially given your body the chemical instructions for stress before anything stressful has even happened. You're living in the future, in a future that doesn't even exist yet, and you're making your body live there with you. On the other hand, if you wake up and consciously direct your mind toward possibility, if you tell yourself, "Today is a new chance to grow, to connect, to create, I'm grateful for this day and whatever it brings," your begins to produce different chemicals. Serotonin levels rise, dopamine starts flowing, oxytocin gets released. Your heart rate shifts to a more coherent pattern, your muscles relax, and you feel lighter, more hopeful, more energized. Let me illustrate this. Two people can be stuck in traffic. Same road, same delay, same external circumstance. One person sits there stewing in anger, replaying thoughts about wasted time and unfairness, thinking about how their whole day is ruined, getting more and more worked up. Their body is releasing stress hormones, their blood pressure is rising, they're gripping the steering wheel so tight their knuckles are white. The other person, sitting in the exact same traffic, uses that moment to listen to music they love, or reflect on their day, or breathe deeply, or listen to an audiobook they've been meaning to get to. They're experiencing calm instead of stress, maybe even gratitude for the unexpected quiet moment. The traffic is exactly the same, but the thought patterns are completely different, and so the emotional states diverge completely. Same external circumstance, two totally different internal realities, all because of the thoughts they chose to think. This principle means that you are never truly trapped by your emotions. Even when they feel overwhelming, even when it seems like they're drowning you, they are not fixed realities. They are energetic responses created by the inner dialogue of your mind. Change the dialogue and you change the energy. It's that simple and that powerful. Now, this doesn't mean suppressing negative thoughts or pretending everything is fine when it isn't. I'm not talking about toxic positivity here, where you force yourself to smile and say everything's great when you're actually struggling. That's not healthy and it doesn't work long term. What I'm talking about is deliberately choosing to reframe, to look at situations from a higher perspective, and to nurture thoughts that empower you rather than weaken you. When you practice this consistently, your brain begins to favor those pathways and positivity becomes not just a choice but a habit. Every decision you make, no matter how minor it may seem in the moment, is like a drop of water falling into a bucket. One drop doesn't appear to make any difference at all. You can barely even see it. But day after day, week after week, the drops accumulate and eventually the bucket overflows. Your habits of thought, the way you speak to yourself, how you spend your time, the energy you give to others, what you choose to focus on throughout your day, all of these are drops that shape the fullness of your emotional life. A single negative choice may not pull you down immediately, just as a single positive choice may not transform you instantly. But the compounding effect of repetition, that's what sculpts your long-term happiness. It's the aggregation of marginal gains, as they say, or in this case, the aggregation of small positive choices. Consider the choice of how you begin your morning. This is huge. If you start the day by immediately grabbing your phone the second you wake up, scrolling through news, checking social media, reading emails, letting stress and other people's priorities enter your mind before you even get out of bed, you are setting the tone for anxiety and distraction. That small choice, repeated day after day, literally wires your brain to begin each morning from a place of stress and reactivity. You're training yourself to start every day in a defensive, anxious state. On the other hand, if you take even just 5 minutes, that's all, 5 minutes to breathe deeply, to reflect on something you are grateful for, to set an intention for the day, to connect with your body and your breath, you are choosing to anchor yourself in calm and positivity. That choice may feel small, it might even feel insignificant when you're doing it. But over weeks and months, it creates a completely different emotional baseline. You're training your nervous system to start each day from a place of center and peace rather than chaos and stress. Another example is the way you talk to yourself in moments of difficulty. When you face a setback, and we all face setbacks regularly, do you immediately think, I'm failing, I can't do this, nothing ever works out for me, I'm not good enough, why do I even bother trying? Or do you catch yourself, take a breath, and choose to say something different? This is hard, but I am learning. I can handle this. I've faced challenges before and I've grown stronger from them. This is just another opportunity to prove to myself what I'm capable of. That shift in inner dialogue is a choice. And though it may feel subtle in the moment, though it might not seem like a big deal, the repeated pattern of that self-talk becomes your internal compass. Over time, the brain associates challenge with growth rather than defeat. And resilience becomes a natural part of who you are. Even the way you manage your attention throughout the day shapes your happiness in profound ways. Every moment, you have the choice to focus on what is lacking or on what is present. If you constantly compare yourself to others, scrolling through social media looking at everyone else's highlight reel and feeling inadequate, focusing on what you don't have, ruminating on fears of the future or regrets about the past, your brain wires itself to live in dissatisfaction. You're training yourself to always see what's missing, what's wrong, what's not good enough. But if you consistently redirect your attention to what is working in your life, to small victories,